Part 12. Online game Dungeon Master. Author, Bulletin Lau Bulletin Si Bulletin Me. Chapter 111. In the next few days, the land of Duskhill quickly fell into the quagmire of war. Although most lords had already obtained their territories and did not need to continue the war, in the face of the aggressive situation in the south, the players adjacent to the south still chose to expand their army. When the army of the bridal chamber leader was divided into 3 groups and advanced to the north, a dispute occurred. The speed of the players' expansion was not as fast as that of the coalition. The 400-man army seemed strong, but it still could not compete with the 1,000-man army. In this way, the coalition continued to occupy 4 or 5 territories a day. Soon, they encountered the first resistance from the north, the Game Club of Dongda. This club actually accepted the task of being promoted to Baron, but because its reputation was not as high as Shenxian, it was more demanding in terms of task conditions and rewards. Despite this, the promotion to Baron was still an irresistible temptation. The size of the Game Club in Duskhill was 11 people, so the army they formed soon brought considerable trouble to the coalition. At the same time, the Sing Guild performed the duty of harassment, assisted in the long offensive line of the coalition, and also brought potential impact to the bridal chamber leader. However, the productivity of the south is ultimately greater than that of the north, and it is not enough to rely on a dozen players to harass. The bridal chamber leader immediately gathered the army, increased the reconnaissance in the north, and quickly reversed the situation. Relying on the large number of abyss demons provided by the 2 demon lords, in the head-on conflict, the coalition army had a level 50 fire demon and a level 40 horn demon warlord, which should not be possessed by the players at the current stage. The only explanation is that the 2 demon lords hidden in the Fran Valley have already taken action. Previously, NPCs against NPCs accounted for a large proportion. This time it was a precedent for the conflict between players and NPCs, marking that players officially participated in the affairs of the game and began to change the plot and history of the game. Shenxian investigated that there was nothing unusual in the territory of the bridal chamber leader in the Dusk Hills. This was a completely empty shell village, no different from normal. In fact, his real power was hidden in the Fran Valley. Walking through the charred underground forest, the branches made a crackling sound. At this time, Xiao Yunruo led several mage apprentices to move towards the interior of the forest. Not far away was the dangerous Fran Valley. From a distance, they could see countless workshops with faint firelight on the dark brown cliffs and cliffs. There were also countless spires and fortresses, which looked hideous and terrifying under the reflection of the red sky. If they didn't know it was underground, they would really think it was in the abyss. Be careful. Don't make any moves. Now we have released the invisibility and detection spells, and the demons can't find us, Miss Xiao whispered. The mage apprentice stopped breathing and walked quietly, not daring to anger the 36th level mad demon and the 42nd level soul-eating demon wandering in the forest, because for them, the apprentice is really a tiny existence. Taranj. Deep in the fortress filled with hot breath, red crystal ore is everywhere. The magma dragon Gregor lies comfortably in human form, enjoying the special service of the Hell Banshee. Magma dragon is the subdragon species with the closest bloodline to dragon, but Gregor surrendered to the devil, so it gained power beyond the dragon. In Tarango, he is the king here, and his orders represent the highest will, because he controls the right to the southern underground world, and he controls the 200,000 powerful army in the fortress. At this time, the player Dabake walks slowly. She is a vampire, about 20 years old, wearing a robe of fallen priest. Although the huge hood covers her face, the figure revealed from the robe is exquisite. The hand with moon-colored gloves holds the scepter with black wings, and the other hand holds a Bible of sin. The pace is not hurried, and it comes to the outside of Gregor's palace. Called, Lord Gregor. The magma dragon climbed up immediately after hearing it. What's the matter? Dabake. Dabake was the chief priest of the fortress. A guard reported that a player who claimed to be a lord wanted to see Gregor, so she came over. Lord. There was such a junior in her memory, but she didn't know if it was him. She smiled with memories, and Gregor shouted, "Let him in." Dabake immediately retreated. Gregor thought to himself, "Is it the little guy Ryan said? After all, the great Gregor is a magma dragon, and he can't be underestimated by these little lords." At this time, Shen Xian entered the fortress under the leadership of Dabake. Because he was wearing a helmet, Dabake couldn't see him. Dabake was covered with a hood, so Shen Xian couldn't see his face. He could only rely on the vague appearance to think that there was a graceful woman in front of him, but he didn't know what she looked like. After a long corridor, the elite guards inside Gregor's territory were all level 70 Scorched Earth Dragon guards and level 85 Flaming Dragon officers. These huge creatures kept patrolling in the palace dozens of meters high. Shen Xian felt that his feet were shaking constantly, like an earthquake. "Lord, this is your first time here?" Dabake asked kindly. "Yes, I have never been here. A place like this should not be accessible to lower-level lords," he sighed. When the two met, they had a good impression, so they talked more. Seeing that Dabake was level 41, he was also secretly surprised, because if there was no war in the fortress, these players in the fortress would level up very slowly. Before they knew it, the two had walked into Gregor's palace. Who knew that there was a rumbling sound of blowing, and saw countless meter-sized magma balls erupting and scattering in all directions. "Be careful, this is what Mr. Greg is taking deep breaths. He does it every morning. It is good for maintaining good health." Master Greg is not a human being, Shen Xian couldn't help but ask when he saw the melting traces on the ground. "Yes," Dabake chuckled, "my lord is actually a young magma dragon. Maybe he wants to scare you to maintain the dignity of the dragon clan." That's right, Shen Xian also found it interesting. Of course Greg was very unhappy, because he didn't expect this mortal to have any reaction to his dragon breath. He helplessly transformed into a dragon and sat down with his butt on the floor, and asked, "Are you the lord?" "Yes," Shen Xian replied, taking off his helmet. Now Dabake could see Shen Xian's face clearly, and she was pleasantly surprised, because she found that the lord was exactly the person in her memory, and she couldn't help but sigh when she thought of the things he did in college. Shen Xian didn't notice Dabake's lonely expression. In fact, he didn't expect to meet someone who knew him. The chance of this was too small. He just looked at Greg intently. "What's the matter?" Greg asked majestically. "I want to remove the brand of light." Greg felt that his breathing was getting heavier and the blood in his body was steaming. It turned out to be like this. He understood why this damn guy Ryan asked him to receive the Lord. It was because of the brand of light. Interesting, he laughed loudly. But after a long time, the two of them looked at each other without saying anything. Doesn't this damn mortal know how to pray for Greg's help? He secretly said in his heart, exhaling bursts of sulfur-smelling smoke from his nose, and said dissatisfied, "Okay. Is it that simple?" Shen Xian looked at him in disbelief, wondering what happened to him and why he acted so approachable. According to his idea, to remove the brand of light, at least several elite-level tasks must be completed. In fact, no, Greg just agreed to him. Could it be that the system has a program disorder that only occurs once every 120 years? Greg believed that the great magma dragon should not be seen by mortals, so he said, "I feel this growing power. Soon you will become a trophy of the gods." Fortunately, Greg was also protected by the despicable priest's conspiracy has suffered such damage, so I will kindly tell you how to undo it. Shen Xian understood Ryan's intention. It turned out that Greg and he had the same problem, no wonder he could get hints from him. "First of all, let me see how far this power has reached. Don't try to suppress it, let me see if you still have a chance to be saved." Greg's eyes ejected a strange light, and after it entered Shen Xian's body, the negative effects of the light brand exploded. Waves of holy light slowly emerged from his body, and complex and huge sacred textures emerged from the soles of his feet. Dabake felt a cramp in her chest, and then the endless sacred wave invaded her body. The corners of her mouth slowly turned. There was blood slowly left behind, and the body was crumbling due to injuries. The Hell Banshee screamed, "Shut up!" Greg released his dragon power, suppressed the Hell Banshee's voice, and said slowly, "Dabake, you go down first, this is not the place for you to stay." Then Dabake apologized, looked back at Shen Xian, and walked away quietly. When Shen Xian checked the brand of light, he realized that it had advanced to the third stage. Tip: complete the advancement of the brand of light you own. Brand of light, status, causes random damage of 5% to 7% of current health to units with evil characteristics within 200 meters, randomly causes negative effects of fear, dizziness, and confusion lasting 4 to 6 seconds, and reduces health recovery. 3 Magic Recovery 6, increase attack power against demons and devils by 225%, increase attack power against undead by 75%. God's Gift / Online game Dungeon Master. Author, Buledin Lao Buledin Si Buledin Me. Chapter 112. From the expression on your face, I can see that you definitely can't accept this fact. Gregor stared at Shen Xian and said. Shen Xian really couldn't imagine such a result. The mark of light has advanced again. However, you are not hopeless yet. Do as I say, and there is still hope. After he finished speaking, he flew up from the floor of the palace, transformed into a human form, and stood in front of Shen Xian. Are you a non-believer? He suddenly asked. For now, yes. Very good. I think Ryan, the old guy, should have told you that first you have to have faith. Believing in the devil is different from believing in gods. This is a special form of faith. The gods gain power through the faith of mortals, but the devil does not need it. You don't need to pray, you don't need to worship, and there is almost no doctrine. This can generate the power of the corrupted mark in your body. But according to the rules of the kings of the 9 hells, there are still ceremonies to be held. You have to sign a contract so that your name can be remembered by the devils. When Gregor said this, a subtle cunning smile flashed across his mouth. The devil is arrogant and cunning. The devil in mythology likes to trade with humans and take away their pure souls. It is similar in the fantasy world. Devils live in the 9 hells, and demons live in the endless abyss. The former is the representative of order, and the latter is the symbol of chaos. They are all enemies of God and are also opposed to each other. Shen Xian guessed that perhaps believing in the devil can gain more benefits in the fallen temple. Moreover, according to the setting of the previous fantasy world, the souls of the unbelievers will flow to the 9th level of hell to receive the final judgment after death, so believing in the devil will be a necessary stage for players. No one knows the final result of the Mark of Light. Maybe Greg knows, but he may not tell him that the underground world is a world without light. Trying to let the power of God spread here is undoubtedly a stupid act. Seeing that he did not object, Greg took out the contract written on parchment, which was written in Hell language, the most common language in the underground world besides dark language and common language. Your reputation is not enough to get the favor of the Lord of Hell, so I have selected a suitable master for you. Sign your name, and the first step of removing the Mark of Light will be completed. Tip: player Lord accepts the task servant, completes the contract, and rewards 50,000 experience. It takes less than 3 or 5 seconds to sign, but if you really think that the task is so simple, you will definitely fall into a trap. The devil has a history of fraud, so Shen Xian carefully checked the scroll and even checked whether there were traces of special ink writing and whether there were any grammatical errors that needed to be discussed. Only after there were no problems did he slowly sign his name. Count Charlock, the Lord of Shadow Dragon, This is the elder he surrendered to, and the three beings of the fallen temple will not be prejudiced against him because this is the underground world, not in hell. Greg looked at Shen Xian with regret, thinking that if the mortal in front of him was a little careless, he might be able to get his soul for the enslavement and fun of the masters of hell. However, the devil is very trustworthy. If they regret it, they will also try to make up for their mistakes with sophistry and lies. So after the contract was completed, Gregor lost the opportunity to deceive him. Tip: player lord completes the task, servant, and gains 50,000 experience. On the contract, the name burned like a flame, gradually extinguished, and finally turned into golden characters. Waves of corrupt power surged. He called out to Sherlock, who was sleeping deep in the 9th floor, and soon got a response. The body was filled with evil excitement and joy, and the body was slowly surrounded by a layer of faint black aura that was not easily detected. Tip: get evil talent attributes. Evil talent: increase damage to justice units by 10%, increase justice units damage to yourself by 10%. Tip: the light mark is suppressed, and the divine power flowing in your body is gradually fading and corrupting. When you fall into darkness completely, the gift of God will be taken back. A series of pleasant sounds sounded, and it felt good to suppress the light mark. At least he didn't have to worry about murdering his subjects all day, even if the light mark was not triggered very often. Gregor showed his white teeth and laughed with satisfaction. Okay, the next step is to accept the test. You take a rest first, and you can start when you are ready. Don't you have to worry about the situation in the south? What's there to worry about the behavior of those clowns? Gregor sneered disdainfully. For him, the bridal chamber leader is not worth mentioning, but the two demon lords may not be so simple. Shen Xian walked in the huge corridor and thought he should go to see Dabake. He asked Gregor about the room and walked over. In the room, on the simple wooden bed, Dabake was resting under a blanket, and the sacrificial robe was folded and placed on a low oak cabinet. There were also a few women's clothes, which exuded a faint fragrance, making people feel dry in the throat. Shouldn't I come here? Such a thought floated in Shen Xian's mind. Although the clothes in the game are different from reality, Dabake's underwear is still very clear, exquisite with attractive patterns, so he can't help but imagine what the scenery is like under the blanket. He calmed down and sat on the bed, looking at the woman's face, but felt a little familiar, wondering if it was someone he knew. Some people may leave a deep impression in his memory, but as time goes by, they will slowly fade away. He understands what this feeling is like, and he laughs at himself and thinks that if she knew him, she would definitely blame him. After a while, Dabake woke up, opened her eyes and saw him, smiled and asked, "Shen Xian, is that you?" He suddenly realized. "Are you Yan Yao?" Shen Xian remembered the senior sister who was 3 years older than him. Although they were not in the same major, she was the dream lover of all the classmates in and out of the dormitory at that time. College students are in their prime, and it is understandable that they are keen on such things. Even in higher education institutions, they are not immune. Unfortunately, Yan Yao disappeared after graduation, and no one knows how she is now. It usually takes good luck to meet such a beauty by chance, and it is really lucky to meet her here. "You finally recognized me," she smiled softly and stood up slowly. The damage she suffered from the Mark of Light needed 2 hours to recover. Fortunately, vampires have extraordinary recovery ability, so her life was full at this time. "Go out first. I can't let you see me when I change my equipment," she said with a blushing face. Shen Xian hummed and understood and retreated. With a little regret, he thought about what would happen if he didn't retreat. It takes time to change equipment in the kingdom, so in addition to changing weapons in battle, such as armor and leggings, it takes more than 10 seconds. After waiting outside the room for a while, Yan Yao walked out slowly. Maybe vampires are naturally seductive, so the woman in front of him also has a kind of breathtaking beauty. Is your mark of light lifted? She asked with concern. No, but it can't hurt you anymore. Really? Then I'm relieved, she replied. Senior Sister Shen Xian said. Let's talk about the game. Don't you think that mentioning reality in such a fantasy world is a kind of blasphemy to the spirit of the game? Yan Yao looked at her and smiled sweetly. Okay, Shen Xian said apologetically, then let's go back to Lord Gregor first. Yan Yao nodded and walked out with him. On the way, the two asked about the recent situation. Shen Xian told her about the military alliance. She held her chin and thought for a while, and said, maybe I can help you. First of all, your target is the bridal chamber leader. As long as his territory destroys 2 demon lords, he will not be able to make trouble. The key to the problem is that it takes a long time to recruit troops from your territory, and it is impossible to form an effective strike force to destroy his territory in a short time. Yan Yao's analysis was exactly right. Let me report to the adults. I can request to mobilize my guard group to help you. I don't know how strong her guard group is. With Luna's existence, the Terror Knight Squadron is the only help that Desolate City can give him. With her guard group, this should be enough to form a sufficient strike force. As for Shen Xian's army, if nothing unexpected happens, they will be pinned down by the leader of the bridal chamber in the main battlefield. This is a life and death war, and it is impossible to win without paying a high enough price. In Fran Valley, a bloody altar with piled corpses. 2,321 souls. It's still a long way from completing the soul embrace, Ernie said coldly. I didn't expect Anuka to leave such a waste. Haha. Of course, let's finish it anyway. It's a good thing, isn't it? The Fury of the Abyss laughed. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Online game Dungeon Master. Author, Buledin Lao Buledin Si Buledin Me. Chapter 113. Under the dark sky, the village of Big Zosage is filled with the smell of blood. There has been a war here recently. Rotting corpses and stinking blood covered the ground. Countless evil spirits twisted and damaged bodies, lingering, carrying stones and wood, and busy repairing them back and forth. Architecture. In the hall, Big Zosage slammed the table and shouted angrily, Bridal leader. What does this mean? Don't you know that there are more than 300 troops from the north? This is simply a way to die. Standing opposite was the leader of the bridal chamber. His flat expression showed unimaginable strength. He snorted coldly, Big Zosage, aren't you a master? A master should challenge the impossible. Besides, I didn't ask you to destroy them. How could a master be so powerful? You can't even do this. Big Zosage felt like he was insulting himself. He had the urge to smash the bridal chamber leader to pieces, but he couldn't. Facing 2 level 60 demon guards, he couldn't bring up such an idea. His fists were fierce. He punched the table and said helplessly, okay. I'll do my best. His eyes showed unyielding and resentment. At this time, on the battlefield in the middle of the Dusk Hills, after day and night conquests, the army led by the Yellow Vests increased the number of alliance members to 172. However, his losses became more and more huge. On the one hand, these losses are the losses of war, as more and more players in the north know what the south is doing, their prepared counterattack will bring heavy casualties. On the other hand, they are the losses of harassment. There is a mysterious force continuously destroying large areas of land in the south. But this still cannot stop him. Any player is insignificant in front of the army. Although these armies are mixed, they still exerted excellent results under his excellent command. Shen Xian's side has made considerable progress in obstructing the southern movement. In fact, he is doing it secretly and the other side is doing it openly. This result is inevitable. The first is to let players in the north know about the potential crisis in the south. Regarding this, Mr. Aaron instructed a large number of people to spread the news of the war. Almost every player's tavern was talking about the war, so it was difficult to pretend not to know. Then she took the opportunity to sell a large amount of war preparation materials to these lords. Because she knew that she was going to face a war, these players offered high prices. These materials could greatly enhance their combat effectiveness. This approach can be said to be the same in real life. Very common balancing strategy. After these measures were implemented, the losses in the south were indeed several times greater. There is no sign of it from the speed. However, because the north has not been baptized by war, its productivity is generally greater than that in the south. When this effect lasts for a period of time, the south will notice they faced a shortage of troops. Tarranger. In the empty and magnificent palace, Greg had been waiting for them for a long time. He just snorted and asked aloofly, "Lord, are you ready?" Shen Xian replied, "Yes." He then said with satisfaction, "You should know that becoming a servant of Earl Sharlock can only suppress the brand. If you want to completely get rid of the shackles, you must be strong enough. Originally, I wanted you to accept the trial of hell, but it seems you had other things going on, so I came up with another idea to replace this test." "What is it?" Shen Xian asked calmly, but he was filled with fear. "Trial from hell? Does this mean that he is going to be sent to the 9 hells? With his strength that he had just reached level 40, wouldn't he be willing to die? I remember there are a lot of little reptiles in Fran Valley. How about we go there to test them?" Greg suggested. This is his calculation. Although Shen Xian has gained faith, this faith is not strong and needs to be proven by actions. The best way to prove it is to hunt demons. Another point is that although he did not clearly state that Shen Xian could move freely in Fran Valley, if he discovered any secrets of the bridal chamber leader during the trial, it would have nothing to do with him. Even though it was originally agreed with Ryan that the lord who wanted to obtain the fiefdom of Dusk Hills had to complete the task alone, but the old guy Ryan made him a little unhappy, so it didn't matter if he helped Shen Xian a little. If he cannot even defeat the Southern Military Alliance like this, he will not be qualified to obtain this fief. They will select a second qualified person at the right time and let him accept a new test. Flan Valley. Shen Xian felt dizzy again after hearing this. Of course he couldn't refuse such a proposal. It was rare to get close to this place, and of course he had to investigate the information about the leader of the bridal chamber. His thoughts were quite close to Greg's, but what Greg didn't know was that Shen Xian had actually sent Miss Xiao to investigate, and entering Fran Valley was no longer that important to him. A few minutes later, Shen Xian and Greg flew out of the fortress and rushed to Fran Valley. Dabake organized her escort group and was ready to take action at any time. Greg's dragon shape is about 20 meters long. Compared to the flying dragon, his waist is much bigger. There are red scales hanging all over his body, like burning flames. "It's a pity that noble Greg can't take you flying," he said proudly. Shen Xian followed depressedly on a red flying dragon that was much smaller than Greg. He seemed to be able to understand the magma dragon's painstaking efforts. Greg flew extremely fast, and Fi Long could only struggle to catch up. Even Shen Xian could feel that he was doing it on purpose, but there was nothing he could do against him. 5 minutes later, they landed in Fran Valley, a huge place. Legend has it that it is a relic left by the abyss invading the main material plane in ancient times. There are traces of decay everywhere, and new demons are bred everywhere. The most important point is that these demons are different from the demons in Dusk Hills. They are extremely chaotic and unwilling to obey the rule of the fallen temple. Their essence is closer to the demons of the abyss. They have been fighting bloody battles with the demons of hell for generations, and there is no end. This also explains why the 2 demon lords tried to overthrow the regime of Dusk Hills. They were unwilling to obey at all, and even unwilling to become the servants of powerful wizards, so they would take such actions. After Gregor fell, he turned into a human form. The exhausted dragon was sent back, and then he told Shen Xian about the purpose of the trial, mastering the derivative skills of the profession. For example, Luna is a horror knight. In addition to normal skills, she also has the magic of summoning demons and the martial arts of controlling evil fighting spirit. These powers are obtained after having faith and require conditions. Conversely, players who believe in gods will also obtain the expansion capabilities of related professions granted by gods, so to be honest, if there are no believers, it is not as free as imagined. Online game Dungeon Master. Author, Buletin Lao Buletin Si Buletin Me. Chapter 114. Tip: Player Lord accepts the task, trial, and kills 30 demons of various types according to Greg's requirements, and is rewarded with 120,000 experience points and the skill book of Devil's Touch. He thought that this magma dragon would not follow him again, but in fact he underestimated Greg's vigorous energy. He kept making a fuss from the beginning of the fight. First it was the dragon's might, then the magic flame halo. The solo speed of the shield knight is extremely slow, and there is no high attack single target damage martial arts, so most of the time it relies on the power of the army. Once these two gorgeous skills are mixed up, he immediately finds that even if he wants to patiently kill monsters, it is impossible. Fortunately, this is not a solo but a task. There is no requirement to complete it alone. As long as the demon is killed, it counts, so it's time to test his level of finishing. The damage interval of the magic flame halo is 2.5 seconds. He has 2.5 seconds to find the target. If he wants to achieve the best efficiency, he has to calculate the lead time. Shen Xian is very experienced in this regard. He stabbed a few times in the dense group of monsters, and 4 demons fell immediately. After the demon died, a faint red light spot floated out of his body. This was the power of the soul. When this power entered his body, the evil aura around him immediately became thicker. The demons distributed outside the Fran Valley were all scattered and there was no distinction between forces and organizations, so it only took 10 minutes to kill 30 demons. Shen Xian gained 120,000 experience points, which increased his level by a quarter, and the efficiency was still very high. Then he learned the Devil's Touch, which is a passive skill that can make the attack have a status effect. Devil's Touch, skill, 30% chance to cause slowness and blood-sucking effects, lasting. The Azure Defender was suddenly shrouded in a thin layer of mist, and it felt hazy and weird when it was waved. Gregor then issued the second task. This time it was to kill 36 demons of various types, and the reward was 140,000 experience points, but the level 20 inferior demons and level 25 demon supervisors that were killed before became level 26 blood demons and level 34 crazy demons. Gregor blew his breath into the valley, and a shocking explosion attracted hundreds of demons. He still had the dragon power and magic flame aura, and squinted at Shen Xian leisurely. This time, the difficulty of finishing the knife was raised to a higher level. The blood demon can devour and can destroy its own kind to gain a new life. The mad demon can be bloodthirsty and will constantly recover blood during the battle. The life of these two kinds of demons is unstable, which makes the calculation difficult. Shen Xian attacked everywhere without panic, and soon found that the blood demon's devouring was released when the health value was 15%, so he didn't calculate the advance amount like a fool, but pulled open a scroll, and a thunderstorm spell was cast, blasting to death a group of blood demons that didn't have time to devour. "I didn't expect you to be rich." Gregor looked at him with a playful look. Shen Xian smiled awkwardly, said nothing, and swung the sword a few more times, knocking down a few mad demons. In this way, it took 15 minutes to complete the second task. This time, I got the skill of temptation, which can make the enemy waver. Temptation, skill, reduces the attacker's hit rate by 5, and the special attack rate by 5. As for Shen Xian, his level has also reached 41, which is the fastest in the past few days. Are you there? Miss Xiao sent him a message at this time. Shen Xian immediately replied, yes. I will report the intelligence of the bridal chamber leader to you now. She sent a long message in text. The coordinates of the bridal chamber leader's territory in Dusk Hill are XXX, with a population of 800 and an army of 300, the coordinates of the territory in Fran Valley are XXX, with a population of 700 and an army of 400, and XXX, with a population of 600 and an army of 400. These three places are what I have scouted so far. The demons further in are all above level 50, with strong perception. It is not easy to go deep behind the enemy. Shouldn't you reward me? Then, there were a few cute emoticons. What do you want me to reward? As long as it is reasonable, I will definitely agree, Shen Xian replied with a smile. After replying, his face quickly darkened, and he was surprised at the speed of the development of the bridal chamber leader. This speed was completely accumulated with RMB. Otherwise, how could he have a population of 2,100? This is how the myth group deals with RMB warriors. They must feel that they are getting value for money, but they must not be too far ahead. So even if you invest tens of millions, it is impossible to build a huge empire in a short period of time. Such an investment can only be a long-term process, and through daily exchange and transactions, it can achieve the effect of leading one step at a time. At present, only 3 territories have been detected, and if it goes as expected, there will be 2 more. This is indeed a huge force, and the NPC forces must be counted, so the enemies he will face are extraordinary. What about the NPC? What results did you find? He asked again. There are 3 villages belonging to the 2 demon lords, with a total population of 5,000 and an army of 1,000. They are strong, so I don't know the specific information. I understand, this is enough, you should retreat quickly, it is more dangerous here, Shen Xian reminded. I know, but I'm already entangled, and there's nothing I can do, Miss Xiao replied impatiently. In the depths of Fran Valley, a mage apprentice who was on the edge of the mountain was hurriedly retreated by several cross-swordsmen. The remaining mage apprentices released magic shields and mirror spells while fighting and retreating. Miss Xiao cursed the apprentice for ruining her good deeds, and calmly cast an ice ring spell. Not far away, dozens of level 33 mad demons were coming aggressively. Fortunately, they did not belong to the 2 demon lords. If they were discovered, it would be very disadvantageous to the north. At this time, the ice ring suddenly exploded, and the condensed ice froze their footsteps. There was another cry, and a series of magic sequences stored in the epic robes were continuously shot out. Lightning chain. Thunderstorm. Ice ball. Lines of 400 and 500 numbers jumped out from the demon's head, and only a few dazzling lights flashed by, and there were only a dozen corpses left in front. So strong. The mage apprentices stared at Xiao Yunruo in envy, but thinking of so many demons chasing behind them, they ran in panic. Hush! Miss Xiao breathed a sigh of relief. There were still dozens of demons in the distance, but they could not catch up for the time being. She walked away with a sense of relief, but saw that Shen Xian had not read any replies, and she was moved. Why are you panicking? I'm not dead, she replied quickly. Online game Dungeon Master. Author, Bulletin Lao Bulletin Si Bulletin Me. Chapter 115. After completing the second task, Shen Xian's evil aura turned grey, which indicated that his faith was gradually solidifying and establishing a connection with the hell world. A nightmare-like scene seemed to emerge in the dim vision: burning magma, dry ice, and thousands of rock fortresses built in hell. There are countless powerful demons in this apocalyptic place. Sharlok is one of them and owns a vast territory. The illusion in the vision quickly disappeared, and the scenery of Fran Valley was still in front of him. Gregor's huge dragon shape stepped on the ground, leaving a series of sunken footprints with scorched smoke. Have you rested well? I feel that the power in your body has become much stronger. It's really a pleasant feeling for dragons, he sighed while grabbing an inferior demon hiding in the bushes and tearing it apart, and said to Shen Xian leisurely, when your faith is gradually solidified, you should try to control it. This is also the last step of the trial, symbolizing that you have completely fallen into the embrace of the shadow. When Gregor finished speaking, the reminder of the third task sounded. The task was still to hunt demons, 45 of them, but they were replaced with level 44 Balrogs and level 48 Bader demons. They are two very famous demons. In the religious history of the surface world, they are described as the enemies of gods, the source of temptation to fall, and the demons that are most likely to appear in front of mortals. Walking along the rugged mountain road, Shen Xian and Gregor walked for 15 minutes to a demon village. Fences and sentry towers were erected outside the village. Nearly 100 inferior demons rushed over immediately when they saw them. Gregor silently recited the dragon language and killed them all with a breath of flame. Then, the Balrog and Bader demons that ruled the village flew out and started fighting. The Balrog used 2 pairs of wings to float high in the air. It was proud and chanted the unknown language of the abyss. A dazzling hexagram appeared in its palm, and the blazing hellfire gushed out and shot nearly 10 meters away. The Bato demon has the body of an ogre, wearing heavy plate armor. Its eyes reveal violence and cruelty. A huge red flame sword is its weapon. Almost nothing can stop it. These demons seem fierce, but with Gregor's presence, they are infallible. The dragon roared at these ignorant demons, releasing dragon power and magic flame aura, and the orderly team became fragmented in an instant. The demons scattered and surrounded Gregor, attacking with hellfire and red flame sword. Unfortunately, the dragon race is born with strong physical and magical immunity, which can cause 400, 500 damage to him. Reduced to 200, 300. Hurry up and attack. If you don't attack, these little reptiles will die, Gregor urged. Shen Xian kept stabbing back and forth, causing the health of these demons to drop in a step-by-step manner. In this way, when the life of the first demon dropped to 5%, the second was 10%, and the third was 15%. He would have enough time to make up for it in turn. Gregor scanned his actions and felt that his behavior was puzzling to the dragon. Although his AI was very high, he could not figure out the purpose of such behavior. It was not until Shen Xian eliminated the demons with few lives left in 5 seconds that he understood and felt that the Lord was indeed a man who could create miracles. It was quite good for an ordinary person to be able to eliminate 5 demons in this situation, but Shen Xian eliminated 13 demons, and 3 of them were accidentally stepped on by Gregor. He could not blame him. Gregor felt that the Lord in front of him was very likable. He thought that if he was a female dragon, he would definitely fall in love with him. You know, women are still very open in the fantasy world, especially female dragons. It is not uncommon to kidnap princes in history. No wonder Ryan, the old guy, said that he was capable of being the ruler of Dusk Hill. Although Dusk Hill is not big, it is a rare flat area in the underground world. Compared with the uninhabited areas such as Fran Valley and Olsen Underground Crossing, it has natural development potential. It can be said that if you control the Dusk Hills, you will have the capital to rise. This place will become the famous economic center, cultural center and political center of the northern underground world. Gregor thought, and did not notice that Shen Xian stuffed several pieces of equipment into his arms. With the greedy nature of the dragon clan, if he saw it, he would definitely be furious and would never allow others to touch his collection. They came to another village, where there were many fire demons and Bato demons. After fighting for 10 minutes, Shen Xian's mission was finally completed. He completely plunged into the darkness and betrayed the light. His body was shrouded in dark gray darkness, and even his pupils looked a little blood red, which would make people feel trembling in their legs and trembling all over. I just don't know how his appearance compares to selling his body but not his art. I always feel that a lich without a body does not need to worry about his appearance. He only needs to take care of his equipment, which is not difficult for players. The brand on the back of his hand was also occupied by blood-like lines, and the attributes of the brand returned to the original form. Within a range of 10 meters, it can't cause much damage. Hint: you have fallen and abandoned the teachings of Myrindal, and the Mark of Light has been degraded. At this time, Shen Xian has stayed in the center of the village. Hearing that the Mark of Light has been suppressed, everyone congratulated him. I think everyone is worried about the power of the Mark of Light, he said to himself. Let me introduce you. This is Miss Ellen, my deputy in the secret room in the center of the village. Shen Xian pulled Miss Ellen to introduce her to Yan Yao, and then said to the suspicious Miss Yao, this is the cabbage from Taranger. We need your cooperation next, so I hope you can get to know each other to avoid mistakes. Are you a player? Miss Yao stared at Yan Yao, a little unbelievable, because few players choose to join NPCs. Although they can experience the real fantasy world in this way, they are also subject to the greatest constraints. Yes, I am a player. Yan Yao smiled very strongly, as if guessing the relationship between the two. Women are all very familiar with each other, and soon they got to know each other. The four of them sat in the hall of the secret room, and a meeting began. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Online game Dungeon Master. Author, Buledin Lao Buledin Si Buledin Me. Chapter 116. The floor of the secret room was covered with a patterned carpet, and a magic lamp holder made of pure silver hung overhead. Under the dim light, one could see oak bookshelves placed against the wall, decorative knight statues, and talking portraits, and in the center. The four people sat on four mahogany armchairs, and on another armchair were piled various materials and scrolls. Yan Yao pondered for a while and said, my guard group includes 200 flame dragon riders and 100 scorched earth dragon destroyers. This is the limit I can reach. After hearing her words, the three of them were extremely envious. The flame dragon riders were level 50 units, and the scorched earth dragon destroyers were level 60 units. This army could easily sweep the territories of more than a dozen players. If it weren't for the fact that they couldn't conquer at will, choosing a fortress would be an advantage. Then she contributed the data of the two professions, because they were all loyal subordinates of the fallen temple, and there would be no spies, so there was no need to worry about information leaks. Both professions are speed-oriented, and Talangar is not far from Fran Valley. The Flame Dragon Cavalry can also carry several units, and can send elite troops to carry out raids, so this army is definitely the main force. Miss Yao then unfolded the map of Dusk Hills. The north, middle, and south are clearly visible, representing mountains, minerals, villages, ruins, and marks of warcraft. The dates and annotations are very detailed. She pointed out the coordinates of the two territories. These are the secret forces hidden in the depths of Fran Valley by the Bridal Chamber Master. She spent a long time investigating this information. It can be said that mastering this information will make it possible to contain the opponent. These two places are hidden in the depths of the valley, which is different from the development of normal players. Normal players capture adjacent players and make them surrender, but he opened up new territories from scratch. This way, you can fully play the degree of freedom, complement each other's advantages, and let the territory develop in a balanced way. The disadvantage is that you must divide the army to ensure the safety of non-adjacent territories. And the Bridal Chamber Master has just this. I understand. Yan Yao nodded sympathetically and recorded the two coordinates on her map. Although she didn't say much, she was just right. Miss Yao was still a little worried and nagged, it's very dangerous there, by CAI, you have to be careful. I will, and Luna will cooperate with me, there will be no accidents, you can rest assured. Hey yeah, Yan Yao answered confidently. The reason why Yan Yao was so confident was that she had all the maps of the northern underground world, so she knew the neighboring Fran Valley very well. There were no less than hundreds of thousands of demons in Fran Valley. It was a vast place, but just like the Warring States period, the demons here would never unite, and the actual threat was not great. After hearing her assurance, Miss Xiao relaxed, and winked at Shen Xian, and said to Shen Xian, "We must attack today or tomorrow, so as not to have any accidents." Shen Xian is experienced and knows that players like the bridal chamber leader are very difficult to deal with. If he really has the determination to perish together, he can really kill him after spending hundreds of millions, but this money is not worth it. For such a small benefit, unless you are a second-generation ancestor who is good for nothing, no one who is not a brain-dead person will do so. I don't know if the bridal chamber leader is a waste, but he is still quite powerful anyway, not to mention the existence of the yellow vest, so such a thing is impossible. The most likely thing is to buy off the inner ghost with money, but Shen Xian's territory has 73% satisfaction, and how can the loyal residents who worship him as a god betray him for money? Unless they are players, the two who know Shen Xian's secret are impeccable. Yan Yao and Xiao Yunruo are not afraid of the temptation of sugar-coated bullets. In terms of spending money, they are far better than the leader of the bridal chamber. As for Doublegun, Girofor, and Broken Void, they are not core personnel and do not know his secrets. In order to prevent the upcoming war, Shen Xian also selected relevant technologies in advance for Nikas to focus on, and asked him to spread these technologies to the territory after the technology was developed. Let their construction engineering be upgraded to level 3 to increase 30% of health, develop primary maintenance to increase the speed of production unit maintenance by 15%. He allocated rare earth element totems to the village chiefs of the 3 territories. This was accidentally purchased from the market, which can increase the upper limit of the health of the territory buildings by 500 and the defense by 10. In this way, relying on the nearly 5,000 health of the 3-layer fence, even if it encounters siege equipment, it can be blocked for a while. With my army, the Terror Knights, the Fallen Priests and the Cross Swordsmen, and Catherine accompanying us, it is more than enough to fight against the 400 troops of the bridal chamber master, Yan Yao said. Bring some scrolls. Our territory is in the scroll business. In the future, we just need to let Gregor do some trade with us, Miss Xiao encouraged her. Well, I will consider it. Specifically, I need to bring scrolls with high damage and those that can control elite units. This way, I will have a better grasp, she said while thinking. I don't expect to completely destroy them, because the military alliance in the south is not based on the guild. As long as the bridal chamber master shows a decline, players will naturally jump out of the alliance. After Shen Xian finished speaking, he looked back at the 3 people and asked, "Is there anything I need to pay attention to? It's 12 o'clock now. If there is nothing to do, go to rest." "I'm fine. It doesn't matter if I sleep in the game," Miss Xiao muttered nonchalantly. Yan Yao shook her head. "I also want to go back and make some arrangements, and communicate with Luna by the way. This will be more helpful for the operation." Mr. Erlin added, "I want to prepare for the spread of rumors, and implement it after the operation is successful to disrupt the peace in the south. Let's go out. This is the operation for now. If it fails, we will make plans. Anyway, we are not poor. At most, we can compete with him for RMB. Although it is a bit idiotic, the effect is remarkable," Shen Xian said calmly. Not far from the village, a large army slowly appeared at the bottom of the rolling hills. The number of this army was no less than 3,000. Their commander rode on the back of Nightmare, holding a crystal ball to detect the distance. The light emitted from the crystal ball formed a wonderful picture. This picture looked very familiar. It seemed to be a village nearby. The commander found that the harmony and tranquility of the village was not affected by the war at all, and he couldn't help but smile with satisfaction. Online game Dungeon Master. Author, Bulletin Lau Bulletin Si Bulletin Me. Chapter 117. This aura of despair made the surrounding cross swordsmen tremble, and many of the lower level ones even screamed in fear. The leader of the sickle blade demon was so powerful that Miss Yao became somewhat silent. Her face changed slightly, and a white light curtain blocked her face, and then began to move. The sickle blade demon slashed out 3 swords in a rhythmic manner, and the 3 chirping air blades flew past. The first knife hit the magic shield and dissipated, the second knife caused the light screen to break into pieces like glass, and the third knife rushed towards her, across her delicate body, and dealt an eye-catching 900 damage. This blow took away 1/5 of her life, which made Miss Yao very angry. However, the leader of the scythe blade demon is so terrifyingly fast that when he really moves, he can only see fragments of after-images, which cannot be matched by the speed of the erudite. Erudites are not good at fighting. Their characteristics are in academic aspects. For example, the experience gained through the library has a bonus, and the mage apprentices taught by them upgrade quickly. However, they have no bonus to their abilities. This does not mean that Miss Yao has no resistance. After all, she is wearing the best equipment, so how can she be easily eliminated? The cross swordsmen who were still conscious protected each other and surrounded each other. The targets of these sickle demons seemed to be the elites defending at the top of the fence. The leader of the sickle demon was level 60. It was obvious at a glance that he had obtained it through special means. The scythe blade demon's first wave of attacks caused 900 damage, and it laughed strangely and shouted, "Death!" The instant teleportation spell teleported behind Miss Yao for the second time and launched an attack. 3 more times. The fence under his feet was beaten to the point of collapse. Xiao Yunruo shook his body and endured it. He could still face the siege of 5 scythe blade demons without changing his expression. Such strength was indeed extraordinary. Looking around her, the bloody cross swordsmen turned into corpses one after another. All she could see was the rain of blood and stumps, a horrific scene. What a terrible attack! Several dark wizards secretly admired it, thinking that they had no way to fight against such a powerful scythe blade demon, and they could only do so at night and during the day. The leader of the scythe blade demon praised her for repeatedly dodging his attacks, because there are only a handful of mages who can survive their siege. With such a combination, even the second-level mage profession would find it difficult to survive, let alone those with low abilities. A polymath. In the past, Ms. Yao might have died today, because the sickle blade demons sent by the yellow vests were well trained. But now, after 2 rounds of training, she not only has a solid grasp of a lot of fantasy knowledge, but also has a perfect body. Dual technology. She quickly tore open the scroll, and a pure white halo instantly surrounded her body. This was a very common blessing scroll of justice in Zhang's Eye of Judgment Parish, which could increase the damage to evil units by 10% within 90 seconds. But such a scene is too rare to appear in the dungeon. Using something from the opposing camp among a group of demons? Only players like Miss Yao would do this. She threw a series of fireballs, and the scythe blade demon was suddenly enveloped in flames, but its screams continued. When the fire disappeared, the scythe blade demons came over again, and the fence was torn into pieces like thunder. 600 damage points floated out from Miss Yao's head, but her body shook and became blurry. Mirror technique. The leader of the sickle blade demon was secretly surprised. He knew that the mirror image technique could not be cast twice in 1 minute, so he searched around with the help of his keen perception. Not far away, Miss Yao stepped out of nothingness and turned into a physical entity. The sickle blade demon went crazy again. The attack was simply terrifying to the extreme. But at this time, the teleportation spells used by the sickle demons twice a day were also exhausted. Catherine, who had been preparing for a long time in the distance, recited the binding technique. Several sickle blade demons were immediately unable to move as if their legs and feet were grabbed. What a great opportunity! Miss Yao secretly rejoiced and ordered the cross swordsman to form a siege, and then stood behind the sickle demon to attack. The sickle demon's health was only a little over 4,000, and the leader of the sickle demon had a maximum of 11,000. The situation became complicated and confusing. In the distance, the bearded man next to the yellow vest stared at the crystal ball intently. He suddenly screamed, and the yellow vest asked strangely, "What's wrong?" "The sickle blade demon actually failed," the bearded man said in disbelief. "How is that possible?" The yellow vest looked surprised. He stared at the blurry shadow in the distance, but he kept thinking in his heart. To say that the Lord's ranking in WTP is less than 1000, it stands to reason that there will be no master behind him, but a hidden master with extraordinary strength appears in front of him. How can he not be surprised? Originally, these sickle blade demons were sure of destroying this player called Night and Day, but when Huang Jia used a crystal ball to observe it in person, he found that her psychological quality was terrible. The most important thing to test in an assassination is the player's psychological quality. Facing dangerous situations, if the ability to adapt is lost, the result will of course be death. However, there was no day or night. Instead, the scythe blade demon took advantage of the disadvantage of going deep into the enemy's rear to reverse the situation. When the yellow vest came back to his senses, he suddenly found that his forehead was already covered with beads of sweat. He quickly calmed down and said, "Retreat. Since this is a tough nut to crack, just put the bones first." The yellow vests made full preparations to capture this place. They didn't even use 1/10 of their strength when they eliminated Night Wolf. It can be said that they were determined to win. In the past few days, countless clues have pointed to this place, the source of all chaos and the culprit that hindered the military alliance in the south. No matter what, he must remove this time bomb first to avoid future troubles. In fact, the yellow vest was unwilling to kill them all, but for the sake of Tianhai Group, he had to obey the command of the bridal chamber leader. The father of the bridal chamber leader was a typical nouveau riche, who had no idea that virtual and reality were two completely different operating modes and could not be copied. He said to the bearded guest, "You lead the crazy demons to attack the fence gate. We must break through here as soon as possible." The bearded guest nodded and called on a box from the United States and saints from Saudi Arabia. They were all members of the military alliance and were considered by the yellow vest to be players with some strength. Behind them were 100 crazy demons, up to level 40, with upgraded attack and defense and building destruction technology, and equipped with cast magic armor. The nearly 3-meter-long strong body dragged a giant tail with thorns like a mallet, and the metal horn helmet on the forehead was deeply branded into the flesh and blood. 500 attacks, 200 defenses, and 3,500 lives made them reveal danger all over. Shen Xian was still fighting on the top of the fence. At this time, the army he could control was limited to a range of 50 meters, but he was busy just coordinating everywhere, commanding the attack and arranging the retreat. Fortunately, the fence of the village was not long. Unlike the dungeon, which had an almost infinite defense line, he did not need to consider so far, and only needed to think about how to defend. At this time, Singh and 3P had already joined together. I believe that when the 1,000 troops appeared in front of the yellow vest, his expression must have been very exciting. Shen Xian stayed with Luna, and Mr. Fang stayed with Yunmen. The fence gate can be said to be the most dangerous place. As long as it was broken here, the army of the yellow vest would drive straight in unimpeded. But it is not easy to act wild in front of the level 100 boss. Luna has not used all her strength yet, she is already powerful and invincible. Shen Xian is very grateful for the accident when negotiating with Calicos, otherwise if it were someone else, it would definitely be greatly discounted. He commanded the cross swordsmen, fallen priests, and black wizards at ease. These guys understood without even needing specific orders. The AI was extremely powerful. The cross-swordsman half-crouched to avoid the fireballs of the little flame demons, and shot back with a short crossbow. Although they were not archers, their hit rate and attack power were low, but they still killed a lot of them. The fallen priests all stood at the bottom of the fence to help replenish blood. The trajectory of the fireballs was not a parabola, so they would never be attacked. The black wizard shot out a row of shadow arrows, flexibly hiding behind the cross-swordsman, forming several groups to shoot in turns. The posture was somewhat similar to the three-wave shooting tactics used by modern hot weapons. At this time, an imposing army was heading here. They were mostly crazy demons, a few players, a few elites, and an eye-catching Abyss Lord at level 80. Online game Dungeon Master. Author, Buletin Lau Buletin Si Buletin Me. Chapter 118. The earth began to tremble. Thunderous footsteps sounded from the depths of their souls, followed by a storm-like penetrating roar. The Lord of the Abyss, this can be said to be a name that can make demons cry in the abyss. Its mouth swallowed black dead fog, vegetation withered in an instant, beasts turned into dry bones, and the runes of light and dark on its side and the adamantine halberd tightly held in its hand constituted a terrible thing. Even Shen Xian was a little worried. It might be dangerous for such a behemoth to attack the city. In Realm, although the units with huge bodies lost flexibility, they were compensated by the damage bonus to buildings. Therefore, it is not groundless that big guys like ogres can transform into demolition teams. But at this time, Luna rushed out. "You want to challenge me?" Lord of the Abyss and Hewlett, the Lord of the Abyss questioned in an unattainable deep tone. In front of it, Luna was so small that even Shen Xian was secretly worried about her. The bearded guest ordered from behind, "Come back. Have you forgotten Lord Ernie's order?" But what he got was an arrogant laugh. "Ernie? No, it's too early for it to control me, let me crush this little reptile to death first." Not listening to orders. Shen Xian was surprised. It seemed that Anxulet didn't buy the bearded guest's account. This was good news. It's always good to have fewer opponents. Even though Luna is powerful, he privately thinks that the Abyss Lord has an advantage in terms of demolition ability. The battle began. Luna consciously moved the battlefield to a distance, to the yellow vest. In this way, there is no need to worry about Anxulet destroying the fence. Instead, the yellow vest needs to worry about his army. The bearded guest was furious, but there was no way. He knew that the Abyss was a world where the strong were respected. With his level of 35, he naturally couldn't command. Even after losing the Abyss Lord, he still had the confidence to dismantle the fence with the mad demons. Although the yellow vest described Shen Xian as very strong, how could he imagine Shen Xian's perversion without being ravaged by masters? Mad demons rushed over one after another, and the 3-meter-wide fence gate was immediately occupied by a group of crazy demons. The bearded guest imposed various states in an orderly manner. He was a fallen priest, so he played an auxiliary role. It can be seen that his strength is above average. He is very efficient in brushing the buff state. The difference between the two times is at most 0.1 seconds, and there are no exceptions for the 100 mad demons. Even if the state is cleared by the dispel, he will easily identify it and make up for it instantly. The health value of the fence gate is decreasing at a rate of 500 per second. It is stronger than ordinary fences and can last for 120 seconds under such an attack. He has a sharp stone barrier, but he did not activate it immediately, but waited for the opportunity. Seeing that the demons behind him could not attack the fence gate, Chi Ranke ordered them to attack the fence instead. Before that, he had detected that there was no trap at the bottom of the fence. But he would not have thought that there would be something fishy on the surface of the fence made of wood. Shen Xian did not even open the defensive barrier, so he could not see anything just by observation. If the fence really behaved as harmless as it did on the surface, Chi Ranke's trick would be fine, but when the special effects of the sharp stone barrier and the defensive barrier were activated, this suddenly became a bad move. This trick was very successful. Qi Ranke did not realize the coming of death at all. If it was activated at the beginning of the battle, it would definitely not have this effect. But this does not mean that other players did not notice it. Saint discovered this and wanted to tell the two, but unfortunately his English was not very fluent and he did not understand Chinese, so Qi Ranke and Ibox only saw a few lines of intermittent and confusing phrases. "What are you talking about?" Qi Ranke asked in confusion, but the translation of Arabic in the kingdom is not as perfect as the Chinese English translation. Qi Ranke is still very humble. Seeing Saint's anxiety, he must have encountered something dangerous. Saint took more than 10 seconds to express his meaning. At this time, Shen Xian smiled and ordered the Black Wizard to input magic power. It was too late for Qi Ranke to understand. Several rock teeth suddenly pierced out from the fence about 10 meters apart. The crazy demons were not as bloody as the horned demons. 3,500 lives did not kill them instantly, but they were not far from death. The situation reversed, all red blood. How could this happen? Qi Ranke was surprised, but he couldn't blame him. This can be said to be Shen Xian's secret weapon. No one knew and there was no possibility of prevention. He swung out a dagger, cut open his fingers and recited the recovery spell. Slowly, the majestic vitality condensed. The fallen priest's group healing ability is good. If the remaining life of the mad demons is a few hundred more, they may be able to be saved, but Shen Xian is faster than him. It's like a chain of tricks, one ring after another, without giving him any chance, and destroying the mad demons at the cost of the Black Wizard's group attack. Countless green light beams with life force rose from the mad demons, but the healing skills could not revive the dead, and 1/3 of the magic power was wasted. Looking at him, there were less than 20 mad demons and several elites around him. Thinking that 100 mad demons were destroyed like this, he felt lonely. "It's not your fault. Retreat," the yellow vest comforted from a distance. Unlike the bridal chamber leader, the yellow vest was tolerant. Although the attack of the mad demon was resolved, Shen Xian was not feeling well here. But this was just the beginning. The yellow vest had not yet deployed his trump card. When the bearded guest led the army to retreat, more and more troops were ready to move. After Yan Yao had buffed all the troops, her magic power was exhausted. She said while resting, "The next step is the real battle. You must be careful." Then she remained silent very rationally. Shen Xian nodded in agreement, looking into the distance, wanting to know what the commander was thinking. The yellow vest also raised his head at this time, guessing the Lord's backup plan, and waved his hand to command 200 horned demons and 800 small flame demons to advance one after another. This army accounted for 1/3 of his total army, an army that could not be easily destroyed. How would the Lord treat it? You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Online game Dungeon Master. Author, Buledin Lao Buledin Si Buledin Me. Chapter 119. The army of the Yellow Vest was only half left. At this time, under the command of Shen Xian, the army of Sing and 3P Studio slowly appeared in front of him. "Did they appear?" the Yellow Vest said secretly. A commotion soon spread in the army. The commotion soon subsided. Dozens of huge demons adjusted their formation and appeared on the periphery of the army. Litliboi and Broken Void's faces changed. It turned out to be a level 70 baiter. Their hearts sank slightly. They are not the same as the newly born baiter. The hidden attributes of bloodthirsty and belligerent make them invincible on the battlefield. It seems that this army is not enough to deter the Yellow Vest. In the middle of Dusk Hill, it was late at night in the real world. Several players led nearly 1,000 troops slowly towards the north. The leader was not a player, but a huge demon. "Master Derd, can you really get a generous reward after completing this task?" several players asked in disbelief. Demons are notorious in the main material world, and trading with them is a combination of opportunities and risks, so these players are worried. Unexpectedly, the Abyss Lord Derd snorted coldly, "Obey my orders, or become my slave." It didn't care about the players' feelings. Holding the soul embrace forged with blood in its hand, it was thinking about how to get the appreciation of Ernie and Lord Fury of the Abyss. In the north of Dusk Hill, several players led nearly 200 troops to discuss. "I heard that the Lord and the Yellow Vests are fighting. Should we go and take a look? How can those masters' battles give you a chance to take advantage? Be careful not to lose both the lady and the soldiers." The players ridiculed the players who made the suggestion. "But what if the Lord dies here? I don't want to just farm. I like fighting anyway. If there is no army, won't I just delete my account? I think this way. Didn't we get a batch of bandit costumes when we wiped out the bandits last time? It will be okay if we disguise ourselves and go again." "That's a good idea," another player agreed. "If the Yellow Vest wins, we will definitely not get any advantage. If it's the Lord, there may be hope." "Yeah. With so many troops of the Yellow Vest, how can the Lord win easily?" Shen Xian stared at the 200 horned demons and 800 small fire demons and thought. The Yellow Vest obviously thought carefully and wanted to eat him with this little army. When the demon rushed to the bottom of the fence, he had 2 rounds of shooting, and when the horned demon approached, he would attack the city. The horned demon will definitely stay about 5 meters away from the fence, because he will not take the initiative to attack until he sees the fence being demolished because he suffered from the sharp stone barrier. The little fire demon has a much higher hit rate because of its short-range shooting, and it will definitely accelerate the collapse of the fence in the form of point shooting. As for the defensive barrier, it can withstand an additional 20,000 damage because it is a type of damage reduction. Yellow Vest needs to sacrifice 100 horned demons and 300 little fire demons to complete this task, followed by contact combat. To completely defeat the army in the village, another 100 horned demons and 300 little fire demons are needed. How can he narrow this gap? He thought of magic. However, the ranks of the horned demons and the little fire demons are very scattered, and they are not arranged in a dense square formation to attack. This tactic is the nemesis of large-scale damage magic. How to gather them together? He thought of another way. After the horned demons and the little fire demons rushed to the front, they really started to attack in groups as he imagined. 30 little fire demons besieged the fence gate, which made its health value drop sharply at a rate of 600. This is the result after deducting the health value restored by the inferior demons and farmers. However, Shen Xian commanded the army to bombard the demons attacking the fence gate without regard for any consequences, and the ground was immediately filled with corpses. Seeing that the situation was not good, many of the little flame demons turned to attack the fence. This time Shen Xian was very relaxed and seemed not to care. So the little flame demons had no time to pay attention to the fence gate that was under special protection, and they all attacked the fence under his guidance. The casualties on both sides continued to increase at a rate that exceeded the Yellow Vest's imagination. It was originally thought that such an army could cause great damage to the Lord, but under Shen Xian's command, there were not many corpses on the top of the fence. This shows the gap. Even if it is very small, it can represent something. Things went in the direction expected by the Yellow Vest. The thick blood bar of the defensive barrier was finally broken, and the mages in the 2 magic towers responsible for the operation of the defensive barrier all fell to the ground tiredly. Gaps appeared in several fences, becoming lower and larger, and finally becoming large enough to accommodate demons. The horned demon and the little fire demon rushed over with their tails swung in ecstasy. They began to gather here, and more than 50 demons gathered in a small area. If there was only one gap in the fence, people might still have doubts, but seeing the broken fence and 4 or 5 gaps, no one would have doubts. But the strange thing is that except for the 2 gaps where the demons opened, there were warehouses and houses in front of them after breaking through. Although the health value of the warehouses and houses is only 3,000, they are not as afraid of fire as the fence. Obviously, this was premeditated by Shen Xian. A magic with a range of 10 meters suddenly exploded. The first to attack was Miss Xiao, followed by several black wizards. There are not many black wizards who can master the range damage magic of Hellfire, so range magic cannot be used like potions. However, these 4 or 5 layers of Hellfire overlap perfectly, and the fate of the demons within the range can be imagined. 3,000 damage burst out instantly in a few seconds. In addition to the 600 contributed by Miss Xiao, the rest is the masterpiece of the black wizards. There are also several fallen priests attacking with expensive magic scrolls. Because the village also implements the contribution system, it is worthwhile to make up for it at this time. The fence was immediately filled with corpses, and even the solid fence was blown to pieces, but compared with the casualties of nearly 150 demons, this is nothing. The players who are still in the yellow vests started to discuss. What's going on? This little army only consumed so much of the Lord's troops. How could the commanding player be so rubbish? Shut up, do you want to die? The commander is the level 70 elite horned demon warlord Soda. Be careful not to be eaten by these murderous demons. What's so strong about the Lord? Isn't it just because he has good equipment and many scrolls? If you give me these things, I will kill him alone. By the time you have these things, the Lord has already developed forbidden spell scrolls and artifact equipment. Single combat is bullshit. Are you still in elementary school? Some other players pretended to be indifferent and quietly moved south. If they saw the situation was not good, they could retreat immediately. But at this time, Sing and 3P Studios began to act. They were getting closer and closer, which made the players very nervous. They were worried about whether they could survive. Little did they know that Shattered Void was also worried. The Women's Federation officer looked at the densely packed middle and high-level demons not far away and asked in a low voice, "How long can we hold out?" Broken Void spread his hands and said, "How should I know? You know my high school education. In terms of arithmetic, I can't compare with you, who graduated from Xiamen University." The Women's Federation officer immediately rolled his eyes at him, thinking that he didn't know that he had to retake advanced mathematics 5 times in college, and deliberately stimulated him. Little boy's men shouted, "Look! What do the yellow vests want to do?" Following the direction of the finger, dozens of huge Barto demons slowly walked towards here. Online game Dungeon Master. Author, Buletin Lao Buletin Si Buletin Me. Chapter 120. Hold the baiter, Shen Xian commanded Broken Void and Lit Liboi. What is the yellow vest doing? Why attack these irrelevant people? Many players expressed doubts. Yellow vest remained silent. Of course, he had his reasons for doing so. Because he knew that 3P would attack in the chaos at the right time, and he also knew that if he could not win, then these players who followed would scatter. So he wanted to drag them into the quagmire of war, leaving them no chance to escape, and let them hold 3P and sing. This was his purpose. Broken Void was fighting fiercely with the baiter, but Shen Xian was facing waves of attacks from the yellow vest. A large number of inferior demons and small flame demons rushed into the village, and kept exchanging fire with the Terror Knights, cross swordsmen, and demons guarding the village. In just a few minutes, more than 100 units were killed, and as more and more demons poured in, the number continued to rise. Several players entered the village and blocked Shen Xian. Shen Xian did not care and pulled out the Azure Defender to fight immediately. The importance of the Lord to the territory is self-evident, so the players all became excited when they saw the Lord's stupid challenge. Moreover, the bridal chamber leader promised that the player who killed the Lord would receive a reward of 20,000 RMB. How could they resist the temptation of money? If Shen Xian knew about this, he would definitely admire the bridal chamber leader for underestimating his own value. Anyone who knew the meaning of the Lord ID would not hesitate to offer a reward of 10 million in exchange for the opportunity to kill his character. Those players who underestimated the enemy soon tasted the bitter fruit. He stood there like a god who could not be desecrated. His shield was so perfect that ordinary players could not hurt him at all. He fought against the fence and easily killed 3 low-level players. Looking at the corpses on the ground, the players all looked panicked. What's going on? Why is the Lord's attack and defense so high? Could it be that he is wearing epic equipment? They looked at him timidly. The desire for life overcame the doubts about money, but Shen Xian would never hesitate at this time. Several horror knights, led by Master Fang, surrounded them and followed their companions without making a decent resistance in front of the army. Master Fang looked at him with interest. The horror knight became so powerful after gaining the buff state of Luna Boss, but how could the Lord become as free as the protagonist of a novel with a cheat? Whether it was positioning or reaction, consciousness or control, all of them were just right. In today's complex game data, it takes a long time for ordinary players to master any of the above. How did the Lord do it? He guessed, but noticed that Yunmen was in some danger, so he immediately interrupted his thoughts and rushed over, while Shen Xian continued to command and fight. About 500 demons rushed into the village, but they were not as powerful as expected. Instead, they were surrounded and had difficulty moving. Yellow Vest looked at the statistics with a look of horror on his face. He couldn't imagine that he couldn't enter the Lord's village after such a loss. Could it be that his territory was really so strong? Indeed, he brought astonishing losses to Shen Xian. 200 units were killed and 200 units were injured. This had never happened before. Even though he had the advantage of equipment and technology, he still had to succumb to numbers. Even so, he was still narrowing the gap in front of the powerful enemy. This was what made Yellow Vest feel inexplicably frightened, as if an invisible giant hand was slowly dragging him into hell. He found that every time his precise estimates were disintegrated by the Lord, as if he had already seen through his moves and countered them. His army didn't seem to be attacking the city, but rather sending them into a bottomless hole. There was another army in the distance. Abyss Lord Dirt savored the death in the air and smiled horribly. He seemed to see countless lost souls being absorbed by the soul embrace and turned into infinite power. But at this time, a 200-man army appeared in his vision, and Dirt immediately shouted triumphantly, "Kill them all!" In his eyes, this 200-man army was like a lamb to be slaughtered. In order to complete the soul embrace as soon as possible, how could he give up such a delicious meal? The player immediately shouted, "We will not be able to reunite with the Yellow Vests. Haha. Are mortals more important than the soul embrace?" Dirt ordered them in a threatening tone, and at the same time issued a task rewarding 150,000 experience for them to complete. This time the players had no complaints. The two armies soon fought together, but no one knew that this battle would be longer than expected. Returning to the village, it took about 10 minutes for about 500 demons to rush into the territory. Shen Xian won the victory at the cost of nearly 100 casualties. He still had less than 200 units, and the Yellow Vests were 10 times his number, totaling 2,000. But there were more than 800 troops from Sing and 3P Studio outside. And it was already 1 AM at this time. The protracted battle that lasted half a day of game time made many units tired. The Yellow Vest frowned and chose to retreat helplessly. In addition, the reinforcements he had been waiting for a long time did not arrive, which was another reason for the retreat. The most important thing is that continued attacks may not be able to break through here. Who knows what else will be inside the village and what will be in the Mage Tower. They temporarily stationed themselves in the ruins of Night Wolf, and more troops will arrive from the south. The army slowly left, which made the survivors in the village breathe a sigh of relief. It was really a long battle, and the village was almost drowned by corpses. Even many farmers came out to help clean up the corpses. The reconstruction work was in progress, and several people from Shattered Void were also leave 1 or 2 people to monitor, and the rest will go offline to rest. In the secret room in the center of the village, Xiao Yunruo sat on a chair and received treatment from Yan Yao. Be careful, Dabake, the country's pain system is very real, Miss Xiao said with a pitiful look on her face. It was not pleasant to be entangled by the scythe demon, so she was seriously injured. Everything is removed from the robe. The healing magic is very effective, but it will be faster if combined with bandages and ointments. If Shen Xian had been a few seconds faster, he might have seen the erotic side of 2 beauties wearing very little, but by chance, the sound of his footsteps aroused Miss Xiao's alertness, and she hurriedly locked the door, making him wait for a long time before coming in. What are you doing? This secret room is not used for illegal activities. Why don't you go back to the mage tower? Shen Xian asked, looking at the strange expressions of the 2 people and guessing, thinking to himself that the 2 of them didn't seem to be doing something shady. The way things looked, could it be that he was overly concerned? It's a pity that Yan Yao said, let's prepare a counter-attack plan for tomorrow. This gave him no reason to ask further. Xiao Yunruo said while recovering, do you want to attack the Yellow Vests military camp later? It hurts me so much, she complained. Shen Xian rejected her suggestion, it's useless. The Yellow Vests must have made preparations, such as letting those American and Australian players take care of them. The military camp may be surrounded by traps and detection techniques. Besides, Yan Yao's army is used for combat. Do you know the special forces? The special forces rarely fight against the enemy on the front battlefield. They will definitely perform some special tasks, so it is more important to attack the village of the bridegroom leader. You'd better hurry up. Sleep well enough to prepare for tomorrow's battle. What's the specific time? After settling Miss Xiao, Yan Yao asked again. It depends on the situation. Shen Xian paused. First of all, there must be an even to odd period from 0 to 1 o'clock every day. During this time, the game world is in darkness, and even demons will rest and lower their vigilance. Then you have to ambush there and give them a surprise.